Steph from Cheapskate Cook, and welcome to my kitchen, or more accurately, my dining room, because that's where we actually have some light. So today I'm going to show you how to make a recipe for real food apple crisp. Apple crisp is one of my favorite fall recipes, but a lot of what you find at the stores or a lot of the recipes online are loaded with sugar, or like they have weird ingredients that are really hard to find or very expensive. So I want to give you a recipe for simple ingredients, real food, inexpensive, and really features the apples. The only thing for this video is that I'm not making apple crisp, I'm making pear crisp, okay? So you can interchange whatever fruit that you have on hand. I've made blackberry crisp, I've made blueberry crisp, I've made peach crisp, all of that. Some of these fruits I prefer making a cobbler instead of a crisp, but when it comes to pears, crisp is great, okay? So you can peel them, you can just slice them, core them, whatever you want. I prefer leaving the peels on, okay? So there's some research that says that the nutrients in pears and apples is right underneath the skin or like right with the skin. The skin provides fiber, all of these things. So I prefer to leave the skin on. Also, less work, okay? You might have some people in your family that are gonna nitpick about the skin, you know, whatever, do what works for you, okay? For 10 years, I peeled and cored apples and pears the old-fashioned way. So you will never hear me say that you need anything but a sharp knife and a cutting board to peel and core apples. But I found this little gadget at Aldi last year, and I've used them before with friends and family members, and I have to say it is my favorite thing ever. Every year we buy bushels and bushels of apples and pears, and it's always a pain to process them because, you know, peeling and coring and everything. But this makes it really easy, and it's safe enough and fun enough that the kids want to get involved, so I like to use this, okay? Boom. You've got the core over here, and you've got your pear that's nice and sliced, and you can just toss it into your 9x13 pan and do the next one, okay? If you want to make these look a little better and not like little pear donuts, you can slice them in half. After you have sliced and cored your pears, they should look like this, okay? It should at least cover the bottom of a 9x13 pan. If you have bigger fruit, like you're using bigger apples or whatever, then it'll fill the pan a little more. Remember that the fruit's going to cook down, so no big deal. All right, the next step is to put the sweetener and flavorings on the pears. You can do what you want here. I usually just leave them plain, or I will sprinkle a little bit of lemon juice and some cinnamon. However, a lot of people prefer it with some kind of sweetener. You can use some sugar, you can use some honey. I'm going to use honey because generally speaking that's better for you than some kind of processed sugar. And you want to use about half a cup of honey, okay? Then you're going to take a spoon or a fork, whatever you want to, and mix it up. Generally speaking, pears are going to need more sweetener than apples. So that's why in this particular recipe, using the pears, I'm just going to use some honey, just to be safe. When you feel like the cinnamon and the lemon juice and the honey has all been distributed fairly evenly among the fruit, it's time to make the crisp. You're going to need a bowl, some oats, some flour. You can use whatever kind of flour you want, okay? Spelt, whole wheat, white. I've got some almond flour in here because that's just what I had, and I didn't have a lot of other flour left. We have sugar, And again, you can use the kind of sugar that you prefer. Some people want to try to use honey. I don't like the way that the crisp turns out with honey, so you can use brown sugar, white sugar, coconut sugar, whatever makes you happy, okay? You're gonna want some butter and cinnamon. Then you just dump everything in. I give measurements on the recipe on my site, but 90% of the time, this is how I measure the cinnamon, okay? Good enough. Mix it all up with your fork. Then you're gonna cut in the butter. Cutting in the butter means you aren't beating the batter, you're not mushing it all up so that it all becomes uniform. You're gonna want little crumbles of butter that are going to cook and melt into something really amazing in the crisp. So make sure that you start out with cold butter, not softened butter. And then there are several different ways that you can cut in the butter depending on what tools you have. First, you can use a fork. So you just add the butter, and then take your fork and just kind of mash it in. You can also use a fork and a knife together, and that kind of speeds up the process. The next option is a pastry cutter. A lot of us have these in our kitchen and we're like, what is this even? I don't know. This is for cutting in butter. And this is great because it's got all the little ridges so the butter sticks in it, and so you just mash it into the crisp and then take it off and then mash it in again. If you feel like MacGyvering your way into cutting in the butter, use this guy, potato masher. Again, a lot of us have these in our kitchen, but we only use it for mashing potatoes, and it's actually very handy for lots of different things. Your other option, which is my favorite option because it takes like 3 seconds, is a food processor. If you already have a food processor, you just dump this in and you're going to pulse it for like, I don't know, maybe a couple seconds until the butter is all crumbly. Whichever way you use to cut in the butter, it should only take like 3 minutes tops, so you're not putting in a lot of time investment. When you have finished cutting in the butter, you're going to just plop it onto your crisp, okay? My butter got a little soft in the process, so it's not exactly the right texture, but hopefully that shows you that it doesn't have to be perfect. Really, you can't go wrong. I mean, we're talking butter, oats, flour, sugar, fruit. It's not going to taste bad. Make sure that the topping is evenly distributed. And if it seems like there's too much butter, don't worry, okay? The butter is going to melt into the pears and it's going to become bubbly and delicious. It's going to be amazing. When you have it fairly evenly topped, pop it into the oven and cook it for like 40-50 minutes. It depends on how thick your fruit is, how much fruit is in the pan, and what kind it is. Just keep an eye on it. You're gonna look for some browning on the top of the crisp and the fruit to be really warm and bubbly. Alright, I hope you enjoyed that recipe, and as you find apples or pears or whatever kind of fruit on sale this season, that it gives you something fun and different to do with those things so that you're not wasting money, so that you're making something delicious with real food for your family, and that it's helping you save money and eat healthier. It is a dessert. Thanks for visiting my kitchen, and be sure to check out the full recipe in the header.